to
All the
snag
Big
one the
Ben
last
ones.
time
How
I was
many
over
Big Ben ones are there?
there. I think we have every color now. We got actually, I don't think that we have a black one. We have a white one. We have a yellow one, actually, like when they did those limited edition ones last year. Or, I don't know,
Okay.
from some Chinese website, I think. Got one of
Wow.
those. Got the Bumblebee. Yeah, so everyone besides the traditional home uniform, and then my sister just got the color rush one. So yeah, we've got them all.
It's pretty awesome.
But Franco, that's my next best one that I have, the authentic. So I had to throw that on for today. My wife's a big Vance McDonald fan for whatever reason. So she has a Vance
really?
jersey, but oof.
Okay. All right, just tweet out the link.
Mm-mm.
Dude, Noah said the traffic though for our page on SI has been crazy already.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good.
So are you guys with like? I forget. Are you like a branch of SI or?
Yeah. So pretty much, the Maven Corporation actually like bought out Sports Illustrated, so that's what they're called now. But they still have like the SI name. But yeah, it's like a brand. Their Sports Illustrated coverage for the Steelers is called All Steelers, and then we're part of that. So
Cool.
yeah, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you go to sportsillustrated.com and look up around the 412, all our stuff will come up right there. But
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Good
okay,
deal.
we press record and we are good. We already recorded our intro for this, so we're just going to kind of jump right into it.
Yeah.
All right, and as promised, here he is. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see him. If you're listening back, you're going to be hearing him. Joey, what's going on, buddy?
Hey guys, I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for having me. Always good to talk some Steelers. So let's do it.
Right. I was told I have to have you answer a couple questions first before we jump into the Steelers. One, I don't even know if it can really be considered a question. It's just kind of an explanation. How would you explain this rise from, kind of like the independent Twitter skits to the point where you are now as being part of Barstool?
Yeah, man. I mean, I have been doing this for a long time. I've been doing it. Was doing it on my own with one of my buddies. You probably see him in some of my videos. The real good looking guy with curly hair, Ben Polizzi. We've been doing it for the last 3 or 4 years together, and so we just kept at it as kind of like our side gigs, and just kept chipping away, and then eventually it started picking up more and more traction. And so from there, it got, it did enough to get noticed by people like Big Cat and Dave at Barstool. And from there, I was calling on a call with Dave, and we were flying out to New York and meeting everybody. And here we are now.
It's awesome. And what I like, and somebody actually brought up to me is, nothing has really changed about what you're doing. Sometimes when you tend to get on with like a bigger company, they might want to put a hand in what you got going on. But I mean, at least to an outsider's perspective, that hasn't been the case.
No, there's so many great things about working for Barstool, but that's one of the best ones is just, Dave and Erica understand that their job, is to bring in people who they like their work, and then let them run and let them do their thing. And so the creative freedom to be able to keep doing my skits, keep doing videos, keep experimenting, trying, failing, writing blogs, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's great to not have to worry about, okay, they want me to change or performance, none of that. They want me to come on and just keep doing what I'm doing. So it's been a blast.
Okay. And are they fully behind your wishes of hoping to one day be on Saturday Night Live, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's just something that, like, as a kid and as a teenager and everything, it's like you watch it with your dad, or, I watch it with my dad and my uncles, and we kind of, it's just one of those things that's always like, wow, at the top of the mountain. But, I mean, when you're talking about the internet and in the age of 2020, there's definitely not another platform like Barstool. So that's I told them about that, and they're supportive of whatever. But I'm super happy to be here and super happy to be creating content and making good stuff for Barstool.
Right. Have you ever done any like type of stand-up comedy or?
Yeah, here and there. Just like to get on stage and have that experience of performing in front of a live audience and seeing how the different mediums work as compared to like what works when you're writing a joke on Twitter, and then when you're doing a video on Instagram or Twitter, and then when you're doing bits in front of a live audience. So I have not as much as my buddy Ben, but I'd like to do it more, but it's just tough, man. I mean, it's sink or swim right there in the moment. You know what I mean? Like there's nowhere to hide up there on stage. So if you do something and it hits, right away. And if you do something that people just don't even understand at all, right away. And that, that can be a tough pill to swallow sometimes.
Yeah. It's like you said with the sink or swim thing, it's kind of scary to think about. Like there's so much more that goes into it than being funny. I feel like it doesn't, you have to have the stage presence along with that. I mean, it's kind of like being in the entertainment industry as a music artist. Like, yeah, you got to be able to do more than sing when you just get up on stage.
Yeah, and the wild card of it all sometimes is just, the audience, like online, you have your followers, the people who follow you because they enjoy to follow you usually, and they like the stuff that you put out. So more often than not, what you put out is going to hit for them because there's a reason that they're following you. At a comedy club, especially starting out, the audience is a wild card. I mean, it's like one audience, you're set on whatever might hit big time, and then the next night or the next show, the second show afterwards could be a totally different crowd, and they just don't get it. You know what I mean? Or it just doesn't land for them. So navigating that, I think, is an important skill and one that I want to work on more. But yeah, I don't consider myself a stand-up comedian at all, but I have done it. Yeah.
Okay. How many impressions do you think you have under your belt at this point?
That's a good question. Well, I fired off that video last week of doing like 10 and 60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And those are like 10 of the ones I feel really good about. But then there's other ones that, like I did Portnoy this week, and I felt good about that one. And so like, that's another one that I can continue to work on. That I can throw in there. That's what I try to pride myself on, is not like having these ones that I just absolutely like that I'm known for all the time automatically. What I pride myself in and what I try to do is to be able to come up with an idea for a skit or have something that's topical in the moment, like Joe Exotic with Tiger King earlier in quarantine, and be able to say, okay, I can pull him off for a skit like the next day or 2 days later. Right. So that, to me, being able to be diverse in the skill set with impressions rather than just having like, okay, I do 2 or 3 and they're absolutely spot on, can't tell a difference at all. To me, when you look at like sketch comedy, that's what's important, is being able to say on Monday, hey, we want to do this skit about so-and-so. Can you have it ready to go by Thursday? Okay, I can work on this impression and get it good enough, whether it be their mannerisms, whether it be different words that they say that you can pick up on, get it good enough to be able to go for a skit to be funny. So I don't know if that makes sense. I'd say ones that I feel comfortable with that I could do in a video, probably 12 to 15. Ones that I feel like my best ones are probably 5 to 7. But again, it's all about just casting a wide net, being able to do a whole bunch of different things.
You think Colin Cowherd is in that your best ones?
Yeah. Yeah.
We think so too.
Cowherd, Luck, Coach O, Jimmy Fallon now.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to think of, huh? Oh, Chris D'Elia, my favorite comedian. Nick Saban. A lot of people like Nick Saban a lot. So, I like my Mike Leach one a lot too, head coach of Mississippi State. I enjoyed doing his one a lot, but yeah, those are all up there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's like, go ahead.
so I was gonna say, obviously you're very good at this, but not a lot of people are. So when did you discover that you could like do this and impersonate people and have their mannerisms and stuff like that?
Yeah, I always tell people that I've always considered myself like a living room, like like before I put stuff out online, I always considered myself to be like a living room impersonation guy. So, what I mean by that is when I was a kid, even, grade school, middle school, high school, when I was with my friends or when I was with my family, I'd impersonate teachers or coaches or whatever. And, would get a laugh out of that. But again, if I want to be at a place like Barstool or whatever, like I have to do people that, people know, right? To get into the sketch comedy field, stuff like that. So really, I've been doing impressions of people all my life. It just started within the last 4 years or so that I would do impressions of people that are, in the public eye.
Okay, cool.
Our our YouTube video editor, obviously Tyler knows him as Sarge, just popped in right now and said, "Can you just tell Joey that your editor and best friend Sarge says hello?"
Sarge, what's up, man? Big salute to you.
No, I know you're famous for all the sports ones, but do you have any that people haven't seen yet, or that you're like a fan of? So like, say for Star Wars, have you ever worked on any Star Wars ones?
Yeah, not I mean, like Kylo Ren. I did a skit with Kylo Ren.
I saw the
and
Adam Driver one. Yeah.
That's one that I like to do. One I'd like to work on more and even craft even better. Big Adam Driver fan, huge Adam Driver fan. No, fellow Hoosier, Adam Driver, an Indiana boy, just like me. The Emperor. I feel like there could be some good stuff there with Emperor Palpatine because he's so distinct, with how he talks and everything like that. So those would be the two. I'm just trying to think of throughout all the movies.
Yeah, I was just curious because I know you're a big Star Wars guy.
You have Yoda, but that's so Frank Oz, right? That's his territory. So I'd say Emperor Palpatine and Kylo or Adam Driver. I like to call him Ben Solo now. Long live Ben Solo. So.
Hey, how many people that you do impressions of have heard you do the impression of them?
It's tough to tell. I know for a fact that Cowherd, know for a fact that Coach O, Jimmy Fallon. I know I've like either responded or I've had people tell me, that they've seen it and everything like that. I don't know about Andrew Luck because he's so off the map. I have no idea. Yeah. I don't even know, if he knows what Twitter is, let alone has seen me do an impersonation of him on there. So that's it. I'd say that I know for sure, like I said. Oh, D'Elia too. Chris D'Elia. He's responded. He knows. Oh, wow. He watches them. So D'Elia, Cowherd, Coach O. And what's funny is I interviewed Nick Saban's daughter, Kristen. We've become like internet friends through all this. And I interviewed her and I was like, okay, so does your dad hate me? What's the deal? She's like, I honestly don't know if he's seen it, which is so Nick Saban, right? Like he's similar to Andrew Luck. Like, of course he'd be in his own world enough to not have time for some internet putts to watch his impression. So D'Elia, Coach O, who the other one? Oh, excuse me. Fallon and
all right.
I can't remember. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So enough about this. I'm sure you're sick of answering these questions. So let's just talk about what we're here to talk about now with the Steelers. Obviously the big story coming into 2020 is the return of Ben Roethlisberger, but there's a lot more additions as well. I mean, you look at what they did in free agency, what they did in the draft. How do you feel about the Steelers coming into 2020 just in general?
I'm ready to go, man. I've been dubbing it like you guys are pumping it. It's Big Ben revenge tour, but I think it's really a revenge tour for everybody because for whatever reason, the national talking heads seem to think that an 8-8 team that played majority of the season with an undrafted free agent rookie quarterback that was on the verge of making the playoffs and going into week 17, for whatever reason, they believe that getting your Hall of Fame quarterback back is going to somehow revert them? Like it's going to make them go backwards? It makes absolutely zero sense to me. I do not understand what people like Cowherd and Nick Wright and Nate Burleson and, Peter Schrager, all these people. I just don't understand their logic. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like when you're a quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger should account for at least, at the minimum, 3 wins. Right? I mean, you get him coming back. So at least from last year, looking at 11-5, 10, definitely 10-6. You look at the Buffalo game from last year. You look at the Jets game from last year. All these games where the defense only gave up 16, 17 points.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the offense just could not get anything going. So I'm ready to go for 2020. I think, and I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be eating their words on freezing cold takes come November, December, when in regards to the Steelers, because I just don't see this team being 6-10. I don't see it being 7-9. The defense is not an issue. You had more playmakers with Ebron and Chase Claypool on the offensive side. McFarland's going to be a nice addition out of the backfield. Hopefully James Conner can stay healthy. I don't understand why this team wouldn't be considered anything less than 10-6 or 11-5.
Yeah, and somebody just brought up. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I watched the clip of Cowherd on Twitter whenever he was talking about the Steelers, and he said he'd go 7-9. Last year they went 8-8 with Duck. So I don't know how getting Ben back reverts them to they lose a win by doing that. That makes absolutely no sense. It makes
zero sense. And you look at the schedule. You look at our schedule. I know it's on paper. I know it's May. A lot of things can change, whether, just teams who bounce back or surprise teams or injuries obviously going to play a factor. But, I mean, there's a stretch, I forget right off the top of my head, but there's a stretch where we play, 3 or 4 games at home in a row early in the season. I mean, we have the road, we start on the road, of course, in New York, like we always do. That doesn't scare you at all. And then you come back home for 2 home games. And then you have a nice stretch in between there in October where you're home for quite a few games. I just, I don't, I'm with you, man. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. But you know what? Keep letting them fuel the fire, because I know Big Ben and all these people hear it. I know that they hear it. So let them fuel the fire and have them be surprised when, we're looking at 11-5 or 12-4.
Yeah, another thing that I don't understand is that the media makes it seem like Ben Roethlisberger is so washed up now because of his elbow injury, when the year prior he had over 5,000 yards passing. Like, I don't know. I mean, obviously we have to see him play, but I don't think there's going to be that much of a drop off where he's just like a washed up quarterback now.
No, that's what I've been saying as well. I mean, 2018 was his best statistical season all around. And then all of a sudden, he gets hurt game 2. Game 1 was a wash against New England. I mean, that was a buzzsaw. The Steelers are never going to win in there, especially opening night. I mean, that was just a complete blank show. But you go in the second game and he gets hurt on a fluke injury. And then, like you said, all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, he's washed up. How does having a fluke elbow injury mean he's washed up? Especially coming off the last season and 2017, 2 of his best statistical seasons ever in his career. I mean, if that BS Jesse James call doesn't happen in 2017, the Steelers beat the Patriots. Big Ben's the MVP that season. People forget that. He's the MVP of 2017. The Steelers were 12-2. They were probably going to go at least 13-3 like they did, or 14-2. They're going to be the first seed in the AFC playoffs. I know that didn't happen, but my point is that if that call isn't changed, Big Ben is the MVP in 2017. He has his best statistical season in 2018. A freak injury happens in 2019, and then everybody's hitting here telling me they're going to go 6-10 because Big Ben's washed up. Not going to happen.
Yeah. I want to come back to just Big Ben, but somebody actually put in here about Pete Pristo's top 100 with Minkah Fitzpatrick. And not that I want to just address that one thing, but just a general question. Do you think that Steeler fans make too much about national media, hating on them, or does that seem to be like a real thing?
Everybody wants to see the mighty fall. I mean, the Steelers have been on top since the 70s. Maybe a few up and down years here and there. 8-8 is a bad season for us. When there's a lot of teams, majority of teams in the NFL that 8-8, there's a lot of hope there. There's good things happening. So I think that, yeah, we probably, myself included, we probably get a little too worked up on it. And these people, these Schragers and Priscos and Nick Wrights of the world, they know that for their show and for their Twitter, it's going to blow up because all of us in Steelers Nation, which is the biggest, strongest, proudest, most powerful fandom in the entire country, in the entire any sports league in the world, they know that we're going to come with a lot of pride because we don't take Steelers slander lightly. I don't take it lightly. You guys don't take it lightly. The rest of Steelers Nation doesn't take it lightly. So there is that hate there, but they're doing it for their own good. Adam Shines of the world, what a twerp that guy is. I mean, like, this dude is, I mean, obviously, I didn't play college football or pro football or anything, but I mean, how badly would that dude get beat up in a pickup game of football? I mean, he's the biggest twerp in the world, and all he wants is just Twitter, ratings and everything like that. So we make too big of a deal of it, but it's because we have so much pride, man. We care so much, and we love the Steelers so much.
Right. No, I agree. I think that sometimes we do take things to heart, but it is a lot of for the reasons that you just said. Like, I get the sense that some of the time these people say things that they don't mean just because of what it means for their show or their website, whatever it might be. And like you said, the Steelers being on the platform that they are, it's kind of the same thing with like the Dallas Cowboys as well. You mentioned them in something, your clicks, your ratings, whatever it might be, they're going to skyrocket. Everybody's going to be tuning in because they're one of the teams to talk about. So
And
I think that's the thing for me is like feeling like it's not even a genuine opinion.
Right. And, like, how many times do we have to hear about the Cleveland Browns in the offseason? How many times do we have to have people trying to be first? They want to be, when it happens, and eventually, if it ever happens, which I doubt it will, but they want to be the first ones where, hey, I was talking about Cleveland back in May. I was ready in April saying blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's just a bunch of nonsense, man. Like, they want to be first on the scene with that. They want to see the Steelers fall because the Steelers have been on top for so long. And I don't care what anybody's going to say to me. Oh, well, they haven't won a Super Bowl since 2008, Super Bowl 43. It doesn't matter. The Cowboys haven't won the Super Bowl since, I don't even think any of us were alive the last time the Cowboys won a freaking Super Bowl. And they're still the most talked about, just like the Steelers are. Like, there's brands and there's powerful teams and organizations that are always going to be on the top. The Steelers are one of those. And so people want to see him go 6-10. They want to see the destruction inside the locker room. And I'm just not having it. I'm going to be on the front lines, getting bloody with everybody, defending them.
We respect that. We appreciate that. We acknowledge that. No, but okay. So circling back, like I said, to Big Ben, what do you expect from him individually this season?
I expect a big year from Big Ben. I really, really do. I think that he's going to come in with an even bigger chip on his shoulder that he normally has, because not only is he coming back off an injury, but he's still got something to prove without that jag-off Antonio Brown. You forget about that. That's another thing that I'm defending him on. How many people on NFL Network and all over these people were talking about how is Big Ben's fault, is Big Ben's a locker room problem, Big Ben, blah, 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 blah. Where's Antonio Brown right now? Where? I don't even know. I think he's on Cameo or like getting ready for a fight with Logan Paul or something on YouTube. Yeah, that's worked out real well for everybody, right? Yeah, no, Big Ben's out there throwing with James Conner and Juju and Ryan Switzer. He doesn't need a guy like Antonio Brown. So he's coming off an injury. He's coming off all this slander about him with Antonio Brown. He's heard it. He's ready to prove it. So I definitely think comeback player of the year is just going to be sitting there waiting for him in 2020.
Yeah, you look at the guys that could potentially win that award, and like Stafford had a pretty devastating season and injuries last year as well. Rob Gronkowski coming back after taking a year off, but I'm not sure the opportunity there because of all the mouths to feed. So yeah, I think Big Ben is definitely the front runner for comeback player of the year. And as we mentioned, with additions like Chase Claypool, Eric Ebron, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I think automatically there's a huge upgrade in the red zone, which was a problem last year, along with the entire offense was an issue, but it was very magnified in the red zone as well. But a big target like Chase Claypool, he's going to help down there. Eric Ebron, who was a touchdown machine with Andrew Luck just 2 seasons ago, had the ankle injury last year. He seems healthy, ready to rock and roll with Big Ben. He's a huge fan of Big Ben before he even got here. I'm excited about this offense. And as far as the defense goes, we're bringing Bud back on the franchise tag for at least one more year. The loss is Javon Hargrave, and I don't want to downplay that loss. I think that he is a phenomenal football player. But when Tuitt's healthy and you got him and Hayward, he's a guy that played, maybe 60% of the snaps in a game, and you can't pay $13 million a season for that. Not that the Steelers could have anyway financially, but even if they could, I'm not sure that with the role that he plays, I would have wanted them to do it. But yeah, I love this defense. I think that it's fair to say, they're not going to get 38 takeaways again. You could see a little bit of regression there. But they're 3 straight years now that they've been at the top of the league in sacks. So I don't think that that's going anywhere anytime soon. If anything, getting Tuitt back for hopefully a full season could even add more to that. So I love this defense, and the offense, they got to be, if they're league average, this is a playoff team.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you look at the numbers, they've been up everywhere, which, again, I don't understand how people like Coward can say it, because you look at the numbers, the Steelers offense was like 30th, 31st, 29th, 30th, and all the categories. And they're still 8-8. They're 8-5 at one point. 8-5 with that team. That's unbelievable. I mean, they crapped the bed down the stretch, and that's a problem. December football hasn't been kind to us the last couple of years. So you got to fix that. But I'm with you, man. I mean, you'd rather, when you're talking about Hargrave as compared to Bud Dupree, you'd rather give Bud Dupree that kind of money, because he's the one coming off the edge. He's the one that's playing every down. He's the one that's wreaking the most havoc in terms of getting after the quarterback, creating turnovers now. So I love Bud Dupree. I'm glad that he's silenced the haters of the last, his first couple seasons. Sometimes it just takes a little time. He's got to get his NFL body ready. He's got to figure it out. He's figured it out. TJ Watt is an absolute monster. He got robbed of Defensive Player of the Year last year. It was absolute nonsense. If they would have been 9-7 or 10-6, absolutely he wins that award. Devin Bush is going to get better in year 2. You got Hayden and Nelson out there on the corners, Mike Hilton in the slot, Cam Sutton coming in on the dime packages. I mean, there's just a lot to be excited about, man. When I was interviewing Cam Hayward, I was like, doesn't it feel good to have the Steelers be like a defensive team again, And he was kind of like, well, I always considered us a defensive team. And I was like, I mean, I know you can't really say anything else, but like last year was, this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. You know what I mean? And that's great, man. We love that stuff. And what was it about? I feel like we're coming full circle with Big Ben's career. I feel like when he started, he had those killer defenses with Porter and Palomalu and Ike Taylor and James Ferrier, and he was a good NFL quarterback that made the right plays, did what it had to do to win. Then in the middle of his career, he became firepower, man, killer bees. He was a lethal quarterback, but the defense was a little shaky. Now we're coming to the end. We're coming full circle. Steelers defense is the Pittsburgh Steelers again, and Big Ben's going to bring just enough, make the right plays that unfortunately Duck, he's my friend, Duck and Mason and them just couldn't do, and we're going to come full circle, and it's going to be a thing of beauty.
That's wow. I somehow never thought about that, but the realization that is the absolute truth is just now hitting me. Like, to have the defense at the beginning and at the end of your career and in the middle, that's where he had his best statistical seasons, but the defense just wasn't up to par. I think a lot of that, though, I think that the front seven wasn't even that bad. I think the issues were mainly in the secondary, and they've definitely got those addressed now. They've always had their struggles with drafting them. They realized, maybe we got to go outside the organization to fix these holes, and that's what they've done. Trading for Minkah Fitzpatrick, obviously, on the back end just last year. And then in free agency, that's where they've gotten the other things. They fell into Joe Hayden after being released by Cleveland, and Steven Nelson, who was a steal in free agency, where Kansas City fans, for some reason, don't think he's any good. He wasn't even bad there, but he's obviously flourished in our system here. So it's just, wow. Yeah. Defensive teams at the beginning and end, but he had his best statistical seasons in the middle there. I did have somebody just come into the YouTube chat, and I want to make sure I get this question in for them before too long here. Which rookie do you think makes the biggest impact in year 1? Because Tyler and our other host, Herb, both picked Chase Claypool. I, however, went with Anthony McFarland, thinking that I know that they're going to want to take the workload off of James Conner, hoping that he stays healthy. But I think that's the thing is, even if he is healthy, he's not going to have like a monster season, because I don't think that they want him to or need him to. They want to use all the running backs that they have. And I think you look at like Anthony McFarland as the home run hitter that he is, you give him 10 to 12, maybe 15 touches in a game. And I think that he's a guy that could end up, much like I know that it was a down year for the rookies back in 2018. Like Jalen Samuels was the team rookie of the year. And I think that we could potentially be looking at a situation like that where McFarland's able to win that award just due to the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I'm excited for McFarland. I would probably lean Claypool, just because he's such a physical freak, and I feel like those opportunities, like you said, in the red zone will be there. It'd be there plenty for him. But what about a guy like Kevin Dotson, right? I mean, maybe not statistically, right? But being a guard. But I mean, this is a guy who's an All-American, a diehard Steelers fan growing up. Just throw that in there, and we get him in the 4th round. And, this is perfect timing coming right off of, Ramon Foster. Love Ramon. He's hanging him up. Great career. Steeler for life. But I look at a guy like him and who knows, maybe he could be, okay, we got a nice, here's our next generation guard coming in here when Ramon Foster takes off. And you got a guy like Dotson coming in. So I'm really excited about him. But I would probably lean Claypool. I do understand what you're saying with McFarland. I hope that's the case. But I think when you just look at impact, stats, most touches, most opportunities, I think it's going to come with Claypool. But I wouldn't count out Dotson either.
Yeah, I said Claypool just because even though they have a lot of receivers, he just brings an element that they didn't have before. Just his size, the speed that he has, his presence in the red zone. It's just going to be completely different compared to the receivers they had previously.
Yep, agreed. And my, being in Indiana, watch Notre Dame all the time. My brother-in-law freaking worships Notre Dame, so we watch the Notre Dame games all the time. And that guy's a beast. I mean, he's a stud. And I think I saw a stat that in like contested or one-on-one opportunities at Notre Dame, he had a success rate of like 90%. Like he just wins those jump balls, those one-on-one opportunities, because he's such a physically gifted freak, which is going to be nice.
And the production's insane. 80% of his catches were for a first down or touchdown. So, I mean, yeah.
Big Ben he's that Spice Adams meme right now. He's like behind the trees, Big Ben looking at Chase Claypool.
Yeah, sure. I do want to know, you mentioned being in Indiana. So what's like the origin story there? How did you become a Steeler fan?
Yeah, so my dad, he was growing up in Indy in the 70s. The Colts didn't get here until 1984. So, when you don't have a pro team and you're growing up in the 70s, who better to root for than the Steelers? So it's actually funny because my dad's younger brother, who's 3 or 4 years younger than him, he became a Cowboys fan, and my dad became a Steelers fan, and they still are to this day that way, just because they didn't have a pro team. And, the Bears or the Bengals or the Browns obviously weren't any good back then. So they went with the Steelers and the Cowboys, and my dad held true even to this day. So it's a big family affair for us. In the fall, our church is Steelers football. It's an all-day thing where we get together and watch the games together and have food, and we go to at least one game a year in Hines every single year. So it's huge, man. It's a very, very big part of the Mulinaro family.
Growing up, obviously around here, if you're not a Steelers fan, then we think, and you're from Pittsburgh, we think that you're a little different, or like, what's wrong with you? So Did people think that about you being a Steelers fan growing up in Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, I always got, but then, I always would kind of get crap for it growing up in middle school and stuff. And those questions of like, I can't believe you're a Steelers fan. You have the Colts, but I'm like, I mean, I was born into it. Like, I didn't really have a choice, and then even when I was younger, I mean, the Steelers are always kicking the Colts ass. They still kick the Colts ass every single year they play them. And so it was just like a no brainer. I mean, I wasn't going to roll with the Colts. I mean, I covered them in my previous job because I was working for our ESPN affiliate here in Indy. And so I would, be around the team a lot and cover them. And that worked out well because everybody knew that I was a Steelers fan. But so I was, I wasn't biased. I was pretty objective when talking about the Colts. But yeah, man, I mean, people don't really have much to say because the Steelers always whoop up on the Colts.
It's true.
Right. Yeah. So you said you go to a game every year. What game did you go see last year?
The Colts game, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so it was pretty nice because it was like, so side story for it, but me and my family, we all went out there. It was my wife and my brother-in-law's first experience at Heinz in Pittsburgh, so that was great. And then that led right into my honeymoon. So me and my wife the next morning left for Disney World. So that was pretty awesome, especially coming off a Steelers win. So we went to Heinz last year to see the Steelers beat up on the Colts.
And that was the Minka pick six game.
Mm-hmm. We were in the we had great seats. We were in the corner of the end zone where the Steelers, like the tunnel the Steelers come out of. So we were right there for that. We saw the whole thing come over. It was like poetry in motion, man. It was great.
I was at that game, but I was up in the 500s. I guarantee, I know what Beefy's going to say when I say this. I have season tickets, but I wasn't in my seats for that game.
You weren't what?
I have season tickets, but I wasn't in my normal seats for that game. I was up in the 500s.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he was like, as he had that pick six, he was running towards us.
Oh, hell yeah.
But that was one of probably like my two favorite games, especially the way it ended with Vinatieri missing that kick.
I was a little nervous there for a second. I'm not gonna lie, but he messed it up. Those pass interference calls were absolute nonsense in that game. But I think we're gonna try. I think we were planning on, hopefully, if everybody can stay healthy. I think we're planning a Pittsburgh Thanksgiving trip this year. I think we're gonna try to make it out for that. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's the game that Tyler here is actually coming with me to.
Yeah.
There you go. Got to. You don't have to work or anything on Friday, long holiday weekend. What better way to spend Thanksgiving than in the gravel lot or whatever out in Heinz and then going to the game.
Yeah, I've never been to a Ravens game either, so I'm looking forward to that.
I haven't either. Yeah.
I've seen Torrey Smith has broken my heart twice at Heinz Field.
Don't even mention that name.
We gotta let you get going here very shortly, but somebody did just pop in and ask, do you think that the Steelers will actually compete this year in the AFC North? What do you think their record will be, and will they beat the Ravens? So it's kind of like a three-parter there. And I don't know if they mean just beat the Ravens once or if they mean in the division as well. So if that was tied in.
I do expect them to compete heavily in the AFC North. I predicted them to go 12-4, and I do not think that they will win in Baltimore, unfortunately, but I think that you look at the combination of short week in Heinz, prime time, Thanksgiving night, probably wearing color rush uniforms, all those outside factors. But to me, that comes up as a Steelers W. So I expect them to split with the Ravens. I expect them to go 12-4, if not better. And yeah, I think they'll be right in it till the end with the AFC North.
Yeah.
Plus, you remember Lamar Jackson's worst game of his career was against the Steelers in Heinz. I mean,
right.
If it wasn't for a complete BS nonsense roughing the passer call, Steelers probably come up with that game. So,
yeah, and they still even had a chance. Like Duck came in, played decent enough, and they had that fumble in overtime that they were already in Justin Tucker range when they recovered that fumble. So it was game over as soon as that happened. Yep. But anyways, I'm with you. I think that I right now sit 11-5. There's a lot of things that could change still before that. But yeah, and I'm not taking too much into consideration with the strength of schedule. It kind of plays a factor, but at the same time, you look at pretty much every team that they play that was under 500 is going to be a little bit better this year. Joe Burrow is going to improve Cincinnati a little bit. I don't think that they're going to compete or anything by any means. I think that the Cowboys are better than an 8-8 team. And even though that they typically end up falling right there anyway, on paper, they're better than 8-8. I think that Denver's offense is going to be fantastic this year. It's going to be interesting to see about that defense. They're getting Bradley Chubb back. The Jaguars, they're kind of whatever. That is, part of being the second.
They're the worst team in the league. Let's be real.
Yeah, they're the worst team in the league in our opinion.
Yeah. Well, and their little run against the Steelers is definitely over. All those, Ngakoue and Ramsey and all, they're all gone. So
yeah,
doesn't worry me at all. I could see that Monday night game 4 days before Christmas, and Cincinnati. It could be one of those games that Joe Burrow is, it's our great hope with Joe Burrow. I love Joe Burrow. It's my guy. Go Tigers. But I could see that being one of those sloppy, like 17-13 games. Like, maybe the Steelers get upset there just because inevitably one of those kind of comes out each year. But yeah, man, 11-5, 12-4. I think it's going to be a really good year.
Yeah, I will not accept the people in the media saying that the Browns are going to finish ahead of the Steelers. I just
I mean-
won't accept that ever.
Prove it.
Like they said it last year. They said they were going to win the division last year when they got OBJ, and they came in third again.
Yep. I mean, that's been even in their good years, man. I mean, even in 2014, where they beat up on us, what was that, 33-13 in Cleveland. It was a complete nightmare of a game. But, even that year, like, still, they don't finish ahead of the Steelers. So until they prove it, it's just a bunch of talk, just a bunch of chit chat,
Right. All right. So Big Ben revenge tour. Joey's predicting 12 wins for the Steelers. Going to be right in the thick of things in the AFC North and the AFC in general.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully all ending with Big Ben being able to get at least one more. I mean, hey, he's still under contract next year, so who knows? At least one more Super Bowl under his belt in Tampa Bay. Joey, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it immensely. This has been awesome. When I shot you an email, I'll be honest, I don't even know if I was expecting anything back, but it's great that we were able to make this happen. We are going to be on the lookout for all your content. You do great things, and we're looking forward to even more of it.
Absolutely, guys. This was a blast. Anytime. I love talking Steelers. Obviously, probably got a little too fired up, but that's what happens. Like I said, when we get talking Steelers. So, Big Ben Revenge Tour. He's back. BarstoolSports.com. Go to their shop. Search He's Back. There's a T-shirt. Let's all rock it. It's the Revenge Tour. Big Ben Revenge Tour 2020. So get on that right now and send me your pictures, and we can get rolling into 2020, ready to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, we're going to be giving one away here at the end of this episode. So
sweet,
for sure.
Love
all
it.
right, Joey. Thanks again,
Thanks,
man.
guys. Go
Take care.
Steelers.
Appreciate you.
Yep.
All right. So
Awesome.
I hope that everybody stays in here now. No, but yeah, that was awesome. Like I said, super excited to be able to make that happen. If you missed it and you wanted to go back and watch it, this is going to be on the YouTube. And like, for example, Stubbs just came in here and said he just woke up. So you can go back and watch it, or obviously it'll be out in podcast form following when we wrap this up. So either way, but yeah, Joey, great guy, hilarious. Super excited that we were able to make that happen. And, look forward to hopefully maybe we can meet him in person at the Ravens game. Who knows?
That'd be awesome.
But yeah, so as far as like the rest of this show goes, I didn't really put out like a topic list. Wasn't sure how much time we were going to be able to cover with that. When I was making the list, didn't know exactly when he was going to need to wrap up his portion of it. But anyway, so what else is there anything else that you have to say right now before the season starts regarding the Steelers? I mean, we're going to do our predictions with like the entire NFL, but as it stands right now, because I don't know, I mean, we can go back to the Pete Prisco thing with Minkah Fitzpatrick because I'm absolutely lost on that.
Minkah is a top 5 safety in the league. How is he not a top 100 player? That's what I don't understand. Like I get there might be some debate whether he's top 5 or not when it comes to safeties, but for me, maybe I'm biased. He's a top 5 safety in the league. So I just don't understand how he is not. You look at last year alone. How is he not top 100? I mean, he had a lot of picks. People did not throw towards him. They purposely did not throw in his direction, because he only had 2 plays thrown to him for half the season. And I just don't understand why he says he's not in the top 100. That made me so mad.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting list, right? Because if you could say that he's going based off last year, having Bud Dupree come in there at the number 60 play. Nothing against Bud Dupree. He ranked him as the 60th player in football. But at the same time, if that were the case and he's just going based off last year, how does Juju Smith-Schuster come in there at 84? Because nothing against Juju. Love the guy. I think he bounces back in a big way this year. How does he crack the top 100? And Bud Dupree, if you're just going based off, I'm just confused on what he's going based off of. Is it last year? Is it their body of work to this point? Because if that's the case, there's no way Bud Dupree's on there. Or is it, how he really thinks people are going to be in the future? And if that's the case, Minkah Fitzpatrick is one of the best players in football under the age of 25.
Yeah, it makes literally no sense. The list is stupid. It has no credibility to me.
And, Stubbs just mentioned as well, it's not just Minkah Fitzpatrick that just got left off this list. David DeCastro, who is regularly an all-pro right guard, is not on the list either. So the list in general, obviously people are up in arms about the Minkah thing. Minkah actually fired back at him on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
But it's just, I don't know. It goes back to the thing, like, does he truthfully believe this? Because the reasoning wasn't even justified. I can get on board with somebody not agreeing with opinions, right? If they have a basis for what they're saying. His reasoning just seemed ridiculous to me. The fact that he went back and watched one game that they played against the Chargers. I mean, what does that mean? He had a bad game, or in your eyes, he had a bad game. And for that reason, he's not a top 100 player. And then somebody said, what, one game? And he said, no, he had 3 bad games, but then didn't list the other games that he watched where he played bad. I mean,
did he not watch? Did he not choose to watch the Colts game or the Miami game or the San Francisco game? I mean,
the San Francisco game was his first game as a Steeler. He steps into a brand new organization, completely new defensive scheme, and plays the way that he did in his first game. And really, in my opinion, I didn't see him have necessarily a bad game. There was games where he didn't show up as much, but as you mentioned, teams stopped throwing the ball his way. I think that, man, this is getting me fired up. I think what it comes down to is he stopped making necessarily the splash plays, but that doesn't
mean you're a bad defender.
Yeah.
If they don't throw to you, you can't intercept the ball. What don't people understand about that?
That's the same thing I say about Steven Nelson, not getting interceptions.
Yeah, like if no one throws to you, that's a compliment in its own right. Like you don't have to get the interceptions.
Sarge said that he actually brought up the Dolphins game and said that in coverage he wasn't good, and the 2 interceptions he had sucked. I don't know if he actually used those words. I doubt.
I do not know how any interception sucks. First off, but I want to know what he said was bad about the Dolphins game.
Yeah,
like is he talking about like obviously the Steelers went down 14-0 early, but like is he blaming that on Minka?
Who knows? I mean, the one, his first interception was tipped, and the second one, for whatever reason, Ryan Fitzpatrick threw like a Hail Mary down the field that Minka picked off. But there's guys that don't make those plays. I mean, there's guys that just have a nose for the football, like he did last year. He's always around it.
Yeah, and I think that's what helped him in that San Francisco game, is that even though he didn't know the Steelers defense just because that was his first week there, but like he just has a natural act as a safety to like know where to play, and he has the instincts to know where to go and get to the football. He's just a ball hawk.
Keep in mind that this was his first year as pretty much you're a free safety. That's what your position is. Because the last year in Miami, he was kind of moving around, and I think that the Steelers might move him around a little bit more now, having the full offseason to do so, and kind of get him in there and get him to learn everything that they want him to do. He's even talked about that. There was a video about the exit interview that he had with the Steelers and wanting to be more versatile in that defense. So I'm curious to see coming into this year what they're going to have him be doing. But my point there was he wasn't even a traditional safety fully until last year, and he had the year that he did as a first team All-Pro. So I don't know. I don't really care. We're talking about Pete Prisco's opinion. We say we don't care, but here we are talking about it. But truthfully, I could care less about this guy's opinion of it, especially when his tweets get less retweets and likes than ours.
But it's just like we brought up with Joey though. Steelers fans are more passionate than our fans, and it's just the little thing. Like all they have to do is mention something bad about one of our players of the team, and it just fires us up. It gets us angry.
So Sarge said the wording that he had is the interceptions weren't impressive.
I want to see him go on the field and make them.
I mean, that would be something.
Maybe they're not impressive they're not like a flashy interception, but an interception is an interception. I don't care how they get it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you still got to be around the football.
Yeah,
make it. And most defensive backs don't have the hands to be able to make it. Yeah, I mean, we talked about before. Like Ike Taylor is one of the best corners of all time if he knew how to catch the football.
Yeah,
he didn't have stone for him.
I mean, basically, what I've heard, or like there was an old saying, like whenever I grew up playing football, is like defensive backs are wide receivers who can't catch. Like you would have been a wide receiver, but you can't catch, so you're a D-back.
Yeah, I agree. I do want to kind of switch gears here to a completely different sport.
Okay, well, can I bring something up before you do that then?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to bring up Filippone's tweet, I think yesterday. He said that Juju hired one of the Kardashians' trainers to get him ripped. And that's why Johnson will be the number 1 wide receiver and Juju will be in Miami after next year.
Mm-hmm.
So when are people going to stop ripping on Juju?
Never.
I just don't
Even
get it.
once he's gone, people will be looking at what he's doing for another team.
All right, so do you think he'll be gone? Do you really realistically think that that's a real possibility?
I don't think that what people in the media are bringing up about Juju plays into the Steelers' decision at all. I'm not saying that means he's going to be here, because I think what it comes down to is, can the Steelers offer what other teams can? And I don't mean that as just financially. I think that you look at, say the Steelers are willing to offer him $18-20 million a season, right? But so are one of the teams in New York, maybe a team in California, and look at the marketing opportunities that are there as well. Nothing against Juju. I'm completely fine with it, but we know that he has his social media brand that he cares about very much. And that could only, the exponential growth that he would see being in one of those bigger markets, I think that could potentially play into his decision. I think he loves Pittsburgh. I think he loves the organization. I think, even generally speaking, he loves the fans. I don't think that what the media brings up as far as, how he is on social media, or I don't think that the team cares about what the media thinks that they care about. I just think it's going to be a decision of, are the Steelers going to pay him enough to warrant his own decision of not wanting to go to a bigger market to be able to market himself?
Yeah, and I mean, we're like forgetting he came off a bad season, so he has to perform as well this season if he does want to get paid what like people think he will. Because obviously, I think he'll want money, but some people make it seem like he's gonna market himself out of Pittsburgh immediately, and I just don't see that. I don't see him. Like I said before, I don't see him and Antonio Brown as the same type of person. I don't think they're at all like each other.
Yeah, the similarities pretty much stop with them having Twitters and Instagrams and using them. That's pretty much it. They post videos of workouts, which is whatever. I mean, I don't take an issue with it. I mean, Tom Brady posts videos of his workouts.
Exactly. I mean,
so I just don't get it, and I don't think that the Steelers care anything about it. I think that it's media driven, and like I said, if Juju leaves, it's going to be because a team was offering him just as much, if not more money, and they're also in a market where it makes more sense for his brand to be.
Yeah, and so when you're bringing that up, obviously going to a market would help him past football, where he could expand his brand, if he went to say LA or New York. But when it comes to football, I don't see what he has to gain besides a contract going to any of those teams, like the Chargers, Rams, Giants, Jets. I don't think he can gain more than he could with the Steelers besides a contract, which I get. That's a huge part of it. But if you're picking an organization that you want to play for, I think the Steelers are way miles ahead of all of those teams.
Yeah. And I know that, you said about Antonio and him not being the same, but I think that you can look back at the way that they've rewarded Antonio as an organization and realize that these guys take care of their players. I understand people might bring up the Le'Veon Bell contract situation. Even though the guaranteed money, that wasn't a high dollar amount, he would have gotten paid that. The Steelers do not do that to guys. They're very loyal. Hell, look at the Big Ben situation. Look how many franchise quarterbacks move on to different organizations towards the end of their career. That's never even been a possibility with Ben. Aaron Rodgers is the latest example. Yeah, he's still in Green Bay right now, sure. But they drafted Jordan Love with 4 years left on Aaron Rodgers' contract. I think anybody that thinks that Aaron Rodgers finishes his career in Green Bay is naive, and they don't realize the situation that's going on there. Look at Tom Brady finishing out in Tampa Bay, probably. Maybe he plays 2 years there and goes to a third organization. Who knows? The point being, he's gone on. He's moved past New England. Peyton Manning played for another organization. Drew Brees played for multiple organizations. Quarterbacks don't typically – we've seen a lot of franchise quarterbacks now move on. Going back, Joe Montana played for multiple organizations. So it's been a thing. But the Steelers have taken care of Ben Roethlisberger. They will take care of their guys. They're about as loyal, and I know that there's not really loyalty in sports, but if there are organizations that are loyal, the Steelers got to be at the top of that list.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just I just can't. Maybe it's just the homer in me, but I just can't see any of those teams as a better organization to play for.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike mentioned here in the comments that Juju already has a national marketing deals. Why would going to LA, New York, or Miami increase that? He is already a marketing darling. And I agree. He is the spokesperson for a lot of national brands. His face is already out there. If you're a fan of the NFL, or maybe not even a fan of the NFL, you know who Juju Smith-Schuster is at this point. I just think that could even be elevated a little bit more than it already is, being in one of those markets. Even if you're talking about like doing local stuff as well on top of that. And, New York would be tough for him, I think, just because getting back to the media thing, I don't think it's going to be any easier there media wise for him than it is in Pittsburgh. I think New
No,
York.
New York's probably the toughest media in the United States.
Yeah.
When it comes to sports.
So maybe on the reverse side of what I said, how, the marketing and the branding aspect of being in a different location would play into that as well. Maybe he would look at it and just from a media perspective, looking at markets he wouldn't want to deal with. And I don't know, he seems to be able to, like, he doesn't respond to anybody in the media. Like, the dude just does his own thing and doesn't say a word. And that's typically what you get told makes these people go away. Just don't respond. But it hasn't worked for him. I mean, people have still continued to go at him. It's a lose-lose situation for him when it comes to the media, because if he fires back, he looks like the bad guy, or, being childish or whatever it might be. But, he says nothing and they continue to attack him anyway. So I don't know how the dude can win when it comes to the media, but all I know is I truthfully believe that him and the organization have a great relationship, and I think overall he really likes the fans. So I am not writing off him continuing to be a Steeler beyond this year.
Yeah, and I think he realized, like, obviously we don't know him, but I think Juju is smart enough to realize that it's not the fans that are doing this, at least the majority of them. There are some that dislike Juju, but the fans are not the ones that are wanting to cast him out. It's like the Pittsburgh media, and then there's a small sector of like radical fans, I would say, that for some reason they just don't like Juju. But like the overall majority, or like overwhelming majority, we want him here and we appreciate him and we like him as a player. So it's just the smaller minority has a louder voice than the overall majority.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Okay, was there anything else in football you wanted to bring up? Because I
think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So switching gears, we saw yesterday with the NHL approving the 24-team playoff format. I don't know what accent that was there, but the playoff format.
Boston playoff, maybe, I don't know.
But so just on the surface, what are your thoughts about the format?
I don't mind it. I am okay with it. Like, I know some people and some teams may not like it, but like, I don't have an issue with it. I think that the way they're doing it would be smart. But anything to get hockey back, really. Like, I would rather do this than wait even longer for just the normal 16-team playoff. And like making or having some games or some series be 7 games and some games be 5 or 3. Like, I like that aspect of it. So that way it's not 7-game series for 24 teams, because that would take a long time. But if you're switching it up, I'm okay with it. I like it. Anything to get hockey back sooner, because obviously we've been missing it for almost 2.5 months now. I mean, the last time the Penguins played, I was in Hawaii. That's how long ago it was. So I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I was kind of almost at the point, though, where I was just like, don't even bring it back, because I want next season to start on time at this point. Like, we're only a couple months away from when training camp would start to happen anyway. We would be in the conference finals right now.
Yeah, yep.
So, I mean, just for me, like, I don't know how long this thing's going to take, because it's not like they're starting right now. This is just when they return to play that they're going to use this format. So for me, I'm now looking at how is it going to impact the following season. And, that's obviously, I don't think that there's any way they could start on time for next season. So like, when is that going to start then? And is it going to be a shortened schedule? Like, how do you get this thing back on track? I guess that's the general question.
I guess in my ideal world, obviously I have no clue, but my ideal world, I would probably say if they were able to start in July and have the playoffs run in July and August and maybe a little bit into September, you get like a month off and you have like the draft and stuff like that. But then you have like you have a short training camp, only like 2 weeks max, and then the season starts in November. So like you get that short off season, and I mean maybe if you then that's if you wanted to keep 82 games for next season. If you wanted to shorten the season, then they could start in like December or January or whenever they wanted to do it. But if you wanted to keep the full 82 season, I think you start in November and you just have less days off in between games, which I know can be taxing on the players, but I mean that's just the way it would have to be.
Yeah. Do you think that it's possible? What was it? 48 games that they played during that shortened season.
It was 42 or 40. Yeah, no, it was 48. It was 48. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that they would explore that potentially, like kind of going back to the way that they scheduled during that?
I mean, yeah, I would. I mean, I would like them to play more games than 48, but if that's the way that it had to be, I wouldn't mind that. Because during that lockout year, once hockey was back, it felt the same. It didn't feel like we missed half the season. So whatever they could figure out to make it work, I would be down with. Obviously, there are a lot smarter people than us planning this and trying to figure this out. But I want them to do everything efficiently because I don't want to drag this on forever. Like if they get to the point where the playoffs would start in like August or September, don't even have them. Like just pretty much wash the 2019 season and just start fresh with the 2020 season. Because at that point, you're just affecting future seasons so much. Because if you're doing that, you're going beyond the 2020 season. If you're starting that late, you're starting to affect like the seasons after that as well. So there's a certain point where they should just wash it out. But I don't know. It's just tough because we can't. It's something they can't control. I mean, they can, but like to a certain extent, it's because places have to open up and stuff like that. But I am personally, I would be okay with them playing with no fans too. I would rather them play with no fans than not play at all. And I've seen them say that they would play at like only certain cities or certain states. And I would be personally fine with that too. Just anything to get them to play. I don't think they have to play, especially if there's no fans. I don't think they have to play in their home or away, like their home stadiums or something. Because I don't think it'll affect it as much. Like you only have home field advantage whenever, or home ice advantage whenever your fans are there. If they're not there, then it's just playing on like a pickup game or not. Obviously, it's not a pickup game, but it's just like a different rink.
Yeah. We're getting down to like very minuscule details when talking about this, but we know like some boards play differently and stuff like that. But yeah, overall, it wouldn't make any type of difference where they were playing. I think that's why they're talking about like, two hub cities, maybe for like, one city for the Eastern Conference, one city for the Western Conference. I think a lot of the details are still being figured out. But yeah, it's at least encouraging that we're seeing this type of progress now from the NHL because we had been hearing pretty much primarily just about the NBA. The NFL has kind of been on schedule. We know with the MLB, it seems to be a financial issue, which really just sucks. I mean, with everything that's going on, for it to come down to money the way that it seems like it is. I mean, I get it for both sides. Like we've mentioned, time and time again, it's unprecedented times. We don't know what the right answers are. But as far as like the NHL goes, like I said, it's encouraging. And I think that for me, the ideal scenario, if they are going to return to play with this, would be to then go to a 48 game schedule next year, have that be as regular as possible, still be able to finish on time, the second week of June being the Stanley Cup. And then you're talking about the following season finally being back on track. So that to me seems like the best way to get where we need to be as quickly as possible, where we're talking about, the 2021-2022 season finally being back
Just
on
normal
track.
hockey. Normal hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I for some reason I thought it was 42 at first, and then I realized it was 48 because I remember when Sid got hurt, he missed the final from that puck to the jaw. He missed the final 12 games of the season, which was a quarter of the season. Yeah. Because he would have ran away with the Art Ross if he would have stayed healthy. Because I mean he was leading by like I think over 10 points at that point.
What was the total for the league leader in points?
I'll look it up real quick.
Because I'm trying to. What would have been like 65? I don't know. Like,
I'm not sure what it would have been. Let's see.
Because that's not the year that No, it wouldn't have been.
What?
No, I was thinking of the year when Jamie Benn led the league, but that wouldn't have been that year. Because I think
it was St. Louis.
And how many points do you have?
43. Sid had 41, and he missed 12 games. He got second, and he missed the remaining 12 games.
So no one even had a point per game that year.
Mm-mm.
Even.
Sid would have.
Yeah.
Most likely.
Interesting. Anyway, yeah. And in this format, we would be squaring off with Canadians. Did you see any of that on Twitter yesterday? That crap about the Penguins.
They should be scared to play Carey Price or something?
Yeah.
Dude, what is this, like 2014?
No matter what year it is, a team is never going to say that they're scared of playing a goaltender, so they voted no.
Well, yeah. But, even fans saying they're scared of playing Carey Price. I'll admit, and I've said it for years, when Carey Price is on, he can be the best goalie in the league. But he hasn't been to that level the past few years, and the Canadians are not that great as a team overall. So I am not afraid of the Penguins, and so I don't know why anyone thinks the Penguins would have voted no. But I guess someone was surprised the Oilers voted yes. Do you know who they would play? I can try to look that up real quick.
Wait, did you say?
The Oilers. Someone on Twitter said they're more surprised out of anyone that the Oilers voted yes to that format. Because the Western Conference, they've got decent teams that were on the bubble.
They're second in their division right now. They would be part of that top 4 that played round robin.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know.
I have no idea. They said they were surprised that they said yes.
No, I mean, I don't. When it comes to the Pens, though, we haven't even mentioned the fact that we're probably getting Jake Gensel back, right? I mean, when we return to this thing. So
and we lose Dominic Simone.
Yeah. And, you almost wonder how that conversation went where he finally decided to have it. Was it kind of, I brought up to my dad, maybe it was the type of thing where they were like, hey, Dom, we know that you could play through this potentially, but we're looking at our roster. We're going to be healthy when we return to hockey if it happens. We're not so sure that you would even be in our lineup. And, I love Dom Simone, but I think that potentially is a realistic thing where they were looking at their lines and saying, we're not exactly sure where you're going to fit in if we're going to be healthy rolling back into this thing. So you might as well get the surgery and make sure you're full go for next season.
Yeah, I think that could have happened. I also just think even if he would have played, I think he probably looked at there's no timetable for when things are coming back. So, he could have been waiting, say, they started up in August. He could have been waiting that whole time from March to August and needing the surgery. So I just think it's better to get it done now than later, even if that costs him playing in playoffs if that happens. But like you said, the team's going to be healthy. So there's not going to be many spots in the lineup where he would play if they're fully healthy, especially with Gensel coming back.
Yeah, Gensel's coming back. He's going to occupy a prop. I think he's going to be with Gino and Rust, to be honest. And I think Zucker and Sherry stay.
You keep that line together. And then you keep Rust and Gensel with Malkin, because people forget when Sid was out, Malkin and Gensel were playing well before he got hurt. They were playing just as well as Gensel does with Sid. So, and then you got would you put Bukestad back at the third line center?
Yeah, for as long as he can stay healthy. Sure.
Oh, you got Bukestad, Horny, and Marlowe on the third line, and then you got.
I'm telling you, if Zach Aston Reese is healthy and he's ready to roll, they're going to put Bluder and Tanev back with him, and that's going to be the fourth line.
And we're forgetting about McCann. Where does he play?
Oh yeah.
At that point, does Bukestad come out and McCann plays third line center?
Maybe. I feel like, not to say that it's necessarily all his fault, obviously, with Bukestad and the injuries and stuff, but I feel like that's got to be frustrating for Solly. And I think that at this point, he could be Sullivan could be at the point where he's just like, I can't even trust you enough to put you in the lineup. These guys are coming out here every day, earning their spots, and we're putting you out there for, potential. Yeah. But, these guys are coming out here, they're playing hard. They've done well. McCann's fine as a third line center, in my opinion. And, I think that they could definitely get things done without Nick Bukestad. I don't think that he moves the needle for them much. And, just unfortunately due to injuries on his part, he's been leapfrogged, whether it be, not just in production, but also in trust in Sullivan's eyes. So I don't necessarily think that he should be a lock to make the lineup. And if we're really, scrapping for spots here, and we're talking about it coming down to being able to reunite that fourth line and having Zach Aston Reese go back with with Tanev and Bluter, that was, the best fourth line in hockey, you could argue. I mean, what they were doing to other teams defensively, I understand Zach Aston Reese really wasn't scoring much, but both Bluter and Tanev were going to be double-digit goal scorers this year. So I think that line is great, and I think that, you're not going to keep McCann out of the lineup, and so maybe the decision would be between two spots between your third line center, whether it be McCann or Bukestad, and then you have Marlowe. Does Marlowe not play, and you have McCann play that wing? And I think, Evan Rodriguez to a degree might make a case. He was actually playing very well those last couple games before we got put on pause. He got scratched, and I think that kind of jump started him, and he's playing real well. But I don't think that he's a guy that will be in the lineup when fully healthy with these other names that we're saying. For me, I would put McCann as the third line center and have Marlowe on the wing.
Yeah, that's what I just tried to talk and I just had a stroke. But I was about to say, like, Marlowe was playing well too, so I don't think you can just justify taking him out either. I mean, these guys have been playing well. They played on the team. It's not Bukestad's fault. He's been hurt, but at the same time, just because he was hurt, that shouldn't hurt the other guys that have been there and have been playing and getting the ice time and being productive. Like, he shouldn't just automatically get a spot just because he's healthy.
No, yeah,
I don't know what they're gonna do, but we need hockey back first for them to figure that out.
True.
But also, speaking of another injury, Pirates related, Kevin Kramer had hip surgery and he's out 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I was wondering where you were going with that. I was like, how did anybody get hurt?
Yeah, Kramer had surgery. So,
which again, I mean, was that even a guy was he going to have an impact right away anyway? Probably not. I think that you're looking at a guy that might come up towards the end of the year, get some at bats, and I don't know what we have in him still. I think he's like I would consider him one of those like quad A players that people typically talk about. I don't think he's ever going to be a regular in the major leagues. And I was honestly surprised that they didn't try to like get something for him in a trade, honestly, because I saw a lot of people throwing that idea around. Is that your dog in the background?
Yeah, that's Tucker. I feel bad for him because he actually has a really bad ear infection right now.
Cool.
It's bothering him. He can't shake his head. He can't scratch it. And our other dog, Magoo, tries to lick his ear a lot, which makes it even worse. So yeah, I feel bad for him right now. But yeah, is there any like update on baseball in general? Like, what's going on?
I honestly haven't seen much within the last couple of days. So I don't honestly have much of an update for you based off. I mean, the last time we talked, that kind of happened where everybody was going at Blake Snell for his comments. Really all I've seen is, I think it was yesterday or the day before, they put out a statement saying MLB players returning to the U.S. don't have to self-quarantine for 2 weeks, because I know that was a thing, obviously, going to other countries in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really the only thing that I've seen with them. As I mentioned, it just seemed like it's a lot about money. I think that they're going back and forth with that. The owners had already, told the players about taking a pay cut. Now they're asking them to do it again. They are willing to do 50-50 revenue sharing, but that's not good enough for the players. I don't know what the answer is.
I will never understand whenever a fan sides with an owner of an organization instead of the players when it comes to like money and contracts.
Yeah.
Like in baseball, that's the thing. In baseball, just because there's no salary cap, I'll never understand why a team would side with the owner.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about millionaires potentially. Not everybody makes $1 million in baseball, so everybody needs to put that idea out of their head, as opposed to billionaires. And what those billionaires are to the millionaires is, what those millionaires are to us. The baseball players are to us. Like that's the scale there. So you gotta understand, these baseball players are looking at these billionaires thinking, like we all are, they're making way too much money, and they continue to make more than 50% of what we bring in, even though it's literally just, I mean, I get it's their business, they should definitely be making their money and everything like that, but the players are the product. No one's going there for any other reason. Like, the players have to be there. They're the ones that bring in the revenue.
Yeah, I mean, so first off, I'll never blame an owner for making money.
No.
Like that's their job. That's what they do. They make the money. But I think that they should take care of their guys as well. I mean, the players are making them the money. I think they should take care of them, whether it's 50-50 or not. I think they should just be able to pay the players at least what their contract's worth, even though they're not playing. Like it's not the players' fault they're not playing.
Yeah. And that's it goes back to not the, to play a little bit of a devil's advocate. It's also not the owner's fault that they're not either.
Yeah.
But I think that's, what we could keep circling back to is it's unprecedented times. We don't know what the answers are. Not everybody, but all these businesses that we're talking about, all these organizations, these sports organizations, they're losing money right now. And they're trying to put an end to it. Obviously, they're still going to be losing money even they return to play because of not having fans. But it's just tough. It's tough. We want sports back for obviously selfish reasons, morale reasons, just to get them back. But for these players, a lot of them are tiptoeing. And I think that's why you look at with the NBA, they're pretty much set on coming back in July. They're going to be in Disney World, it looks like. And Mark Cuban was on the Pat McAfee show and he was talking about it. They did like a 20-minute interview, which is awesome. I highly recommend everybody listening or watching this podcast go listen to it. But I think that what he was saying was the reason that the NBA has been so successful in their attempt to come back, and they pretty much are certainly going to do so, is because you have the faces of the league like LeBron James, Chris Paul, like these bigger name guys pounding the table for coming back. Whereas in the MLB, Mike Trout has said he's not so sure it's the best idea. Obviously, with what Blake Snell has said, like the guys that are speaking up in the MLB, they don't seem to be so keen on the idea. And you look at the NHL, nobody talks in the NHL anyway. So there's that.
Yeah.
So I think you look at these other sports and the NFL is pretty much still on track to go as planned. The way that they've handled this has been tremendous, but at the same time, they're in their off season anyway. So
yeah, it doesn't affect them as much.
Yeah. But I think that was a good point is you have the stars of the league, saying how much they want to come back. And that's definitely played into the fact that it's definitely going to happen here within the next month and change. I think they're talking around like July 15th or so. I think that it's really just a question of how is everything going to work. Mark Cuban referenced Hotel California with the way it's going to work. Like once you're there, you're there. Once you're eliminated, then you can leave. And, they're still talking about as far as like families, potentially. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, it's just encouraging. I think at this point and we need that, with what we've gone through in these last couple months, it's felt like forever. You could say that this is just March 100th or whatever, because it just felt like one long month. People are losing track of the days. Nobody knows what time it is. We need something to look forward to. And all of a sudden these sports talking about return dates and stuff like that, trying to hammer out these plans to return to play has given us some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, man. I just want sports back. That's pretty much how it is. Obviously, I want it back smartly, but I just want it to be back. It's been a long 2.5 months.
People are saying nice plug for I mentioned the Pat McAfee show.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't mind doing free ads for the Pat McAfee show. I love those guys.
Yeah. So was that on there? Because Sarge told me that Cuban said that he tried to buy the Pirates. Was it on that interview?
Yeah, and he said that was before he had kids or he was married or anything.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't be interested in owning another sports franchise at this time. He said potentially in the future, once his kids are all off in college, they are 10, 13, and 16 right now. So maybe once they're not at home anymore.
Tell me, I gotta wait another like 8 to 10 years.
Yeah. He also said about a presidential campaign potentially. They were asking him about that once his kids are off. So he said obviously it wouldn't be, the next election, but potentially the one after that. We could see Mark Cuban running for president. He also mentioned that he is trying to buy the O. But it's been made very difficult, and he has no idea why the process has been like this. He thought it would be as simple as because of what's going on with them, like they're shutting down. That was it. He thought it'd be as simple as just going in and saving them, but he said that they've made it a ridiculously hard transaction.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, no offense to Mark, but I'd rather have him as a sports owner than a president. Like I would rather. Maybe that's just because I want a different owner than Bob Nutting. But
Yeah, but I like what so they actually had a conversation on there like about the Pirates because Pat McAfee said like they stink and was talking about them. They never try to win. And
Is
Mark
Pat
Cuban,
McAfee a fan?
huh?
Is he a Pirates fan?
I mean, he
Or
would be if he was a baseball fan. I don't think he's too into baseball to be honest.
okay,
But although I don't know if you saw him taking some hacks. You see
no,
him swinging. He was swinging a bat in his office and he hit his monitor.
really?
Yeah.
Did he
But
break it?
anyway, what?
Did he break it?
No, he hit like the side of it, like the paneling.
Oh, okay.
But where was I? Oh, he was like Mark Cuban was bringing up, like the financial part of the MLB as well. It makes absolutely no sense for any owner of a baseball organization to sell right now. They bring in more money just by owning the franchise than they paid for it. Like they're already profitable before doing anything. And it's the same thing with the NFL. I mean, we talked about it before where I think it's stupid to try to parallel anything with the two sports. But in the NFL, the owners get like $200 million just from league revenue sharing before the season even starts. And that is already paying for their salaries of their players and then more. They already have like 50 million excess to that. So, these sports franchises, it's up until this pandemic. I don't know what the ramifications are going to be in that aspect or for how long, but up until this point, there's never been a better time to own a franchise.
Yeah. So I was just curious to relate it to the Steelers, and I looked it up. So I was curious how much it took for the Rooneys to start the Steelers, to compared to like what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So the franchise fee back in Steelers started in 1936. Is that correct? 33. Okay, I'm an idiot. But it was $2,500 for the franchise fee.
Oh my!
That's
like what I paid for the tickets.
So this article, this article that I'm looking at came out in 2018, so 2 years ago, and that's the equivalent of $48,000 in 2018 with the inflation. And so he took that 2,500, and now, well, it's probably worth a little more now, but in 2018, the franchise was worth $2.5 billion.
Yeah, that's insane, man.
I mean, they probably at least top three when it comes to value in football teams. I think the only one that
Cowboys are number one for sure.
I would say the only one that I would think would be more is the Cowboys.
The Cowboys are the only one that I know of for sure.
Yeah. I don't know what.
If I were taking a guess, I would say that the Steelers were two.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people's outside perspective, their natural reaction might be the Patriots, but like just because they win a lot, I don't think they're worth that much. I mean, obviously they're worth a lot, but like I don't think they're worth like what the Steelers are worth.
Especially like their tradition of a winning franchise is the last 2 decades. Which, I mean, not to say that it's a short period of time. When you look at the grand scheme of the NFL and football here, I mean, that's not that long of a period of time. So I'm sure it's exponentially grown a lot in the last 2 decades, but not to the point of where the Steelers are or Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's crazy because we're just small little Pittsburgh.
Last couple nuggets I do see in here. Sarge wanted to mention, yeah. Sarge mentioned in the YouTube chat here, don't want to switch it back to football, but apparently the Jets are asking for at least a first and a third for Jamal Adams. I mean, once again, we mentioned Minkah Fitzpatrick being a top 5 safety. Jamal Adams is a top 5 safety, although he plays the other side. He's a strong safety, not a free safety. Plays a lot in the box. One of the best tacklers in the NFL. Kind of does everything for them. First and a third is very steep, though, especially considering that he's a guy that needs a new contract as well. So you're giving him a first, a third, and then you're paying Jamal Adams whatever he's going to ask for, which obviously it's a lot of the Jets would have paid it by now. I don't know.
I really don't like that value. Just I feel like that's a lot with him not having term on his contract. Like I like what we got with Minkah, where we paid. Didn't we just give up a first, or would you give it an extra pick with that?
There was no, it was a first, maybe a 6th and a 7th, but we got Minkah on a 4th back.
Yeah. So like I like that trade a lot better. Because not only you get the fourth back, you have to give up like a couple extra picks, but they're late round picks anyway. But you also get like 4 years out of Minka, or uh, 3 and an option year. So I like that better, and that's another thing. We paid less for our top 5 safety, our top 100 player.
You know what's funny is I was just thinking about, can we compare this to Gino being left off the NHL top 100?
Dude, okay, that's worse.
No, I know.
Because I am very adamant that Malkin is a top 40 player of all time, and he's a top 12 to 15 center of all time. And I will fight that till the day I die.
We were way off, I think. I'm looking at an article from February of 2020 about the most valuable NFL franchises. Or is this only difference? No. Below are the top 10 most valuable franchises as of 2019. The Steelers aren't on it.
Oh, really?
Cowboys are number 1, and they are 1.4 billion over even the number 2 team. We did mention the number 2 team, by the way.
Is it the Patriots? Because I feel like the Patriots would be up there just because they're winning.
I don't, man. How in the world are the Texans in the top 10?
I don't know. Maybe just the market.
I'm shocked.
I'm looking at the same article, and I'm looking at the teams: Dallas, New England, New York, LA, San Fran, Chicago, Washington, New York. How is the Redskins worth more? Okay, so like,
is this article with is this top 10 NFL franchises in value besides the Steelers or something? Like what?
So here. Dallas, obvious. New England, they win a lot. New York, they're in New York. LA, they're in LA. San Fran,
that's the one Stubbs said is probably up there as well. I mean,
I would say San Fran, they've got the tradition like the Steelers, like the Cowboys, and San Francisco's a big market. Chicago, big market. Washington, question mark. I have no idea why. New York, big market. Houston, decent sized market. Philadelphia, big market. So like all of them are just big market teams, except for Washington. I don't understand. I mean, Washington D.C., I guess, but like, I mean. Yeah.
The comments have now turned to talking about my facial hair. They're talking about my beard. I still haven't shaved, so.
I mean, I haven't either, but.
But yeah, was there anything else anybody mentioned in here, or anything else before we wrap up that you guys want to see us talk about? I do have a shirt to give away, so I guess I can do that real quick and see if anybody responds in this time. All right, so let me randomly go to.
Is this based off the tweet?
Yeah.
You know what's funny is that you said that we didn't have a lot to talk about after Joey left, but we've been on for 45 minutes since he left.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Congratulations to @SteelersGal86, Heather. She actually follows my personal page too, so I'm happy it's somebody that follows both. I don't know if you guys can see. Boom. But yeah, I will DM you for your info, and we will get you one of those shirts out to you. We put the picture out there. Barstool has a shirt for Big Ben's Revenge Tour 2020, so we wanted to give one on due to Joey coming on today to talk to us. But yeah, with that being said, what's your order at Hot Dog Shop? Okay, we're not doing this. Why the media are also saying now that Connor will jump ship if he do get the big bucks and a new contract. Yeah, I think that James Conner isn't in the same situation as Juju due to the position that he plays. Also, you look at, with wide receiver, you need 4 receivers now pretty much to be set at receiver. That's the way the NFL is. With running backs, I like the idea of a committee, but if you have one really good one, that's not going to be the case. They've drafted a running back in each of the last 2 seasons that they feel like can, work together in the scenario where Connor does go down. I think this is Connor's last year here, regardless of what he does. He could have a monster year, but I don't see that being the case, even just because I hope he stays healthy and I hope he's a contributor to that backfield. And I hope that he's very good when he's on the field. At the same time, I want to see his touches dialed back. I want to see Anthony McFarland. I want to see Benny Snell in short yardage situations and at the goal line. I think that we have pretty much everything that we need in the running back room. I think Jalen Samuels is on the chopping block. Don't think he's on the 53-man roster. I think he's the odd man out. I don't know. Connor could have the best. I think he could replicate 2018 and they're still not paying him. I mean, I don't think that I think the Steelers have gotten wise to how to handle running backs. They see that the way these contracts have gone, they see the way that the injury history as guys get older go. We know the wear and tear that's already on Connor's body, the injury history there. And I think that they have wised up to the idea that you go with a committee approach at running back, and that's probably the best way to do it. Find guys that are good at one thing and have them contribute that to your backfield.
Yeah, I know you and I have a similar mindset on this where it's like running backs nowadays, I mean, you draft them, you get your 4 years out of them, and then you move on and get another one. I mean, that sounds very harsh, but it's just realistic. I mean, running backs just don't hold value, especially at what they want. Unless they're like a top, like, of course, there's like oddballs like Christian McCaffrey. He's more than just a running back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why he got paid. So, but like for James Conner, I'm with you. I just don't see him being on the team after this year, even if he has a baller year, just because the value at running back is not there. You don't need to pay these guys to get the production because you can just draft other ones. You just get the 4 years out of them and then you move on.
Yeah, and I'm not even necessarily against if you have a roster constructed where you feel like you can take a running back in the first round. For example, the Chiefs taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year. I am not necessarily even against that, because then you're getting the fifth year out of him as well, for sure. And then you can cut ties. You're getting that extra year without having to pay him a large amount. So I don't know. I guess my thing is, like you said, get your years out of him that you can on your rookie contract, and then cut bait. I still even think I love Le'Veon Bell. He's one of my favorite Steelers of all time, as far as what he did on the field, at least. But I think that they handled that the exact same way that I would have. If he was a first round pick, it would have been cool because he would have had the fifth year option as well. But, tagging him the couple times, even though he didn't end up playing the second time, and then letting him go in that way. So I think they handled that situation the same way that I would have. They offered him a contract. He just didn't accept it. I know that he didn't get the guaranteed money on it that he was looking for. So he obviously opted to go to the Jets with the more guaranteed dollars. But yeah, I just, the running back position, as you've said, as I've said multiple times, it's just kind of devalued. There's a lot of guys that bring, it's devalued because of the value that everybody brings to that position. There's so many guys that are good at least one thing that you're asking of a running back, and you go with a committee approach and have, the home run hitter that we have in Anthony McFarland, the short yardage goal line back in Benny Snell. James Conner can kind of do it all. He's going to be a better pass protection guy than either one of those two I just mentioned. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think what it comes down to is this is going to be Connor's last year in Pittsburgh. I love him, more so as a person than a football player, but really as both. I love the story there, obviously a Pitt guy as well. But I don't know. To me, this is his last year, regardless of what he does, good or bad.
Yeah, there's only a few what I would just call franchise running backs in the league. There's like, you can count on like one hand. I mean, you've got like Zeke, but even Zeke, like I wouldn't want him to pay like what the Cowboys paid. I wouldn't want the Steelers to do that. But just to name players, you got like Zeke, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon, just like people like that. But then for the overall majority of the league, you just have these lower level running backs. They're still productive, but they're just not like those type of guys that aren't the workhorse only back. Like they're the only back on the team that plays really. The league's just moving towards like running back by committee because there's like fewer and fewer just standout running backs. It's like, and I think part of that is just the league is transitioning from, it used to always be running and now it's a passing league. So that also affects what the running back brings to the game. And so if you get like an average value out of your running backs, you don't need to pay them that much because the majority of the game you're probably going to be passing anyway.
Right. Yeah, I think Saquon's the next guy that we're going to see potentially a contract dispute with because he was a first-round pick. He's going to have that fifth-year option that the Giants are absolutely going to pick up and try to knock him with a contract extension until he plays on that. So it'll be interesting to see. I think that, like I said, this is something, and being in New York, especially with that media, that's a situation that's going to be interesting to watch play out. I agree that Christian McCaffrey is kind of an anomaly, even more so over a guy like Ezekiel Elliott. Christian McCaffrey caught 111 passes or something like that last year. So, I mean, you're paying a running back. You're also paying a number 1 or 2 receiver for your team as well. For a team that's rebuilding, I honestly, like I said to our friend Ryan Platt, that like I would have explored trade options there for Christian McCaffrey, as odd as that sounds, because I get that he's the best at his position, one of the best players in football. The Panthers are nowhere near competing, and I would have been curious to see what kind of assets you could get there. If teams were wise, they probably wouldn't offer up, too much unless they were in, like, this sounds disgusting to even think about, but like imagine him on Kansas City.
Oh, man.
Like, yeah. If this was before the draft, obviously, but imagine if they traded them, the 32nd pick or something like that, along with more assets to get Christian McCaffrey, and then all of a sudden he's in Kansas City's offense with Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. So, but that obviously didn't happen. Carolina paid him. I don't necessarily have an issue with it. I think Christian McCaffrey is an anomaly back. There's another guy. I think Saquon is probably the closest thing too. Ezekiel Elliott doesn't catch that many passes out of the backfield. I wouldn't have paid him $90 million. You've just seen too many running back deals go bad. Todd Gurley was the best running back at one point. He got paid. He's not even on that same team anymore. David Johnson had a standout year, got paid $13 million a season. He's not on that team anymore. I mean, it's just.
We had Le'Veon. Le'Veon's not with the Steelers anymore.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just funny how anytime that we talk about football, we end up talking about running backs. Like, I feel like it all just circles back.
It gets brought up. I mean, that's just how it is. But it's crazy. So, like, obviously Christian McCaffrey was like a first round pick, and he was a top 10 pick. I'm pretty sure.
7th or 8th overall.
But like, I did not think he would have the production that he's had in the NFL. I'll be the first to admit it. I thought he'd be decent, but I didn't think he'd be as good as he is now.
Yeah, I kind of thought they were taking, like, and not to say that he is a traditional running back, because I don't think that he is by any means, but I was sitting there like, did they really just take like a gadget player at number 8 overall? Like, that's what I thought that he was going to be, but he's an every down guy for the Panthers, and he's their entire offense. So, yeah, I mean, it's obviously worked out great. I'm happy for him to get the massive contract he has. I hope it works out there, but a team that's just at the beginning of like the rebuilding process, we'll see how it goes, but I don't know. Other than that, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. We covered a lot today, more than I thought we would.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for being a part of this, being in chat. If you're listening back to this, make sure to follow us, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube for when we do this live. If you're watching, head on over to our Twitter page. If you're not already following us, hit that follow button. Follow us on Instagram. We'll try to get more active on there as well. Once again, congratulations to Heather. You won the shirt. I will be reaching out shortly to get your information, get that sent out to you. As always, Around the 412 is part of the Pod Hub Network. We are sponsored by Keats Barbershop, which is an old-fashioned barbershop located at 180 Brighton Avenue in Rochester, PA. He's open 11 to 7 through Tuesday and 9 to 4 Tuesday through Friday, I'm sorry, not just Tuesday, and Saturday 9 to 4. And on Tuesday, he does $5 off for military personnel, first responders, and nurses. I mention every time, but obviously if this is your first time listening, because Joey was on, it might be the first time you're tuning into the show. Obviously, Christian Keeks Barbershop is not open right now with everything going on with the pandemic. Looking forward to when he is able to open back up, though. He's one of my good friends, so that obviously plays into this as well. But he's a great barber. Don't let that. I mean, he did this. Come on.
Wearing a hat.
I'm showing you the side. I'm showing you the.
Okay. I'm like, it's like he did this. Just shows nothing.
No one wants to see where my hairline starts, so that's why I keep the hat.
They can't see it. That's why.
But anyway, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks again for Joey for coming on. That was awesome. But other than that, it's been Smitty. It's been Tyler. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.